You would never know, looking at the unassuming outside of this house, that you would now be entering the Digs. Some say that it was built by an eccentric stonemason. Probably the same one who did this very unusual artwork on the outside wall of the entrance to the Digs. As you can see, they have acquired what is known as human coral. It has acquired a life of its own. This coral over time has appeared, and sometimes it removes and somebody comes and takes some of it away. Some of it's rather elaborate, like a little cabinet here. And as we enter into the heart of the earth, we can see some of the piers that are supporting what was once a little 3-foot crawl space. You can see where that rust line is, where the dirt once was. And you can also see the old foundation, and underneath it, additional foundation. None of this was here before, and now the Digs have acquired a sort of a life of their own. This is the reverse look of the Digs, looking upwards into the snowy out of doors, and again the human coral. The sump hole and more supports I told you about, which has its own story. And of course, there is the raw dig, still in continuation, the root cell. Deeper than it looks, actually about 6 feet down there, is a bucket that has holes in it with a nice surface pump, a powerful wane pump. And when that little activator switch, which is basically a float switch, and since there's holes in the bucket, the pump then pumps all the water out gradually. The area, the new part of the dig, the raw dig. The new well pump inside a very ancient cavern. Well, maybe not ancient, but certainly antique, certainly old as a eccentric old stonemason. And there's an auxiliary sump pump. And that was put in because the other one wasn't enough. The rebuilt wood burner. And here is where the digs have continued. And there's a retaining wall with an actually an ornate sort of archway with some nice stonework that really can't be quite appreciated here. And this retaining wall is holding back the dirt of the crawl space. And of course you can see there's a scuttle hole. I think you can see it. And that's where all the firewood and salt was thrown in. So somehow the digs became an essential part of the house. And that's one of the old piers that used to support the house. It's really no longer functional because it's been replaced, but it's still there. And here's another old pad where there was a pier, and underneath it, it has been undermined very carefully and bricked up by the eccentric old stonemason with a new pier. Now, interestingly, you can see there was a pier here. And what happened was, as it was being replaced with a new column, it wasn't quite underpinned and supported enough. So in the middle of the night, to the surprise of the inhabitants of the house, who heard a loud crashing sound and ran into the basement, they saw that the old pair had collapsed and fallen to the ground. Fortunately, there was enough support in place so the house did not cave in. And here is where I laid stone that I found all over the place in my travels, and I gradually undermined the old footing and put it in there. And I took advantage of using small jacks. So there are some inexpensive steel jacks actually buried in that wall underneath this footing as I laid the stone around it. I poured a new footing underneath there, and I had the jacks in place, and I laid the stone around it. You have to be careful, because again, if you don't have this carefully supported, it could crack and collapse and cave in on you. Let's see, what else have we not seen yet? I'm beginning to lay up the brick on the outside of this post. Okay, here we are in one of the rooms that I made down in the basement. I had to pour again concrete, and I built another support wall. This support is very critical because this one actually comes up underneath the chimney. The old chimney that sat on the floor of the house, which sat on a concrete support that was right here. Well, obviously I didn't want the chimney crashing through the house and smashing my fingers or anything. So what I did is I had to lay this up very, very slowly and carefully. And a friend of mine welded for me these very strong, heavy steel supports. He welded the flange on either end, and that's a square tubing, and this is I don't know, 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inch, and you can see how thick the steel is. I'll measure that, but I believe that it's about 3/8. Pretty sure. Okay, so, and there is one of the old supports of the house still in there, still holding it, and all of the supports originally looked like that, but then I blocked in new supports and new supports right next to it. So again, very slow, very gradual, and transferring the load so that, you know, nothing caves in on you, making sure there's enough bearing everywhere, and doing it, you know, very slowly, very methodically. Oh, so this support that we made, that went in underneath the corner of where the chimney was. So I had to do that, again, very slowly. And you can see this column here that I built out of common brick is underneath an old pour, which was a support that I have since blocked, new block in here underneath the beam that is holding all of the joists. You can see it better there. There's the beam holding all of the joists. I know this is a little difficult to see like this, but there's a lot here. And you can see I did a retaining wall. There's some nice stonework I did that I can't get you in much closer because it's very tight fitting, but I featured it in another video, and with kind of nice stonework. No one will ever see unless I'm an archaeologist someday. And did some elegant brickwork here. I don't know why it's down in this basement, but I guess I was getting bored. You can see I've made various spots here for candles, and started to make one down here. And the purpose is to put blessed candles there in the event of the arrival of the days of darkness. I don't, which come in a variety of ways. They come spiritually, they can come physically, economically, but they can certainly arrive. So, what are the days of darkness? There's an excellent book written by or compiled by an individual named Father Hebert. Oh, I didn't put one on this side. That's interesting. But Father Hebert wrote about many different visionaries and people throughout the ages who spoke of the coming of 3 days of darkness, which is an interesting concept. It mirrors some scriptures where throughout the book of Joel or Revelations or Isaiah, there is always an intense darkness that precedes this mighty transformation amongst the people of God. I will show you and read some of those scriptures to you. But the days of darkness is something that has been held as a sort of a foreboding or a warning, but it's something that you can certainly read about it, and we believe in being prepared for that. You can be prepared for things physically. You know, it's good to be prepared and have supplies of food and stuff like that, and supplies of water and safe rooms and that. But there's a more important spiritual preparation that surpasses and overrides all of those. And if you don't have that spiritual preparation, none of the others will matter.